Alright, so I think I'll call it a day today on this. Only wanted to play this for about 2 hours. Um, I don't really care that much about fighting that boss. There are harder bosses along the way. Um, the thing is about Final Fantasy, it's all about preparation. The more you prep, and the more you learn the enemy's weakness, you know how to use your environment to your advantage. So I'm gonna try using an Esper that does silence. If the silence doesn't work, I'm going to try a reflect. To reflect the powers back onto the enemy. If that doesn't work and I die again, then either reflect or silencer is going to be used. So you really have to see how things play out with regards to the game. So far, I've been playing this. I'm 27 hours in, and I'm assuming 7 of those hours was just me leveling up. So I've completed like 20 hours of the story in about 7 hours on my own time. So the story of Final Fantasy is very long. I think it's like if I follow the story straight, it might be 25 to 30 hours long. If I follow the story straight, no distractions. But the thing is, every time you walk from one place to the next, you always run into enemies. If you don't have the encounter on and encounter off, then there's no way the game can be just 30 hours of the story straight. Because you'll always bump into enemies. I believe the game is 25 to 30 hours because you could turn off enemy encounters on the regular. If that didn't exist, then the standards of this game would be much longer than um, 25 hours. It would have been probably like 30, 35, 40 hours. But then again, if you're counting, if I'm counting things logically with regards to me backstepping and backtracking, let's say I take off another 2 hours for backtracking, it would still get me around 18 hours. Or let's say I did 3 hours of backtracking through the entire game. I would still be at the 17-hour marker. And so, the halfway point of the game yet. So, I might be at the 35% marker of the game. But who knows? Maybe I am at the halfway point of the game. But it doesn't really matter. I'm more than 15 hours in. So if the halfway mark is 15 hours in, not counting the 7 hours and all the backtracking hours, this game is about 30 hours long on the regular. Like if you speed run it, you could get it down to like maybe 20, 25 hours. But you have to go through the dialogue. You have to talk. You have to see people talking to you. So you cannot skip dialogue. This is not like those games where you could just press the skip button to skip dialogue. So the dialogue itself and the conversation, the story itself, push the games to about 20, 25 hours alone. So maybe if you speed run it, you can get it to about 25 hours, but I don't really think so. I think a minimum you could get this game is like if you consider boss battles and the story. The story is probably 20 hours long, not including the boss battles and mini bosses. So I would think this game is probably at best at best 30 hours and at minimum 25 hours. But that can't be true, seeing the fact that I'm not past the halfway point yet. And I've already subtracted 7 hours from me just shooting the breeze and searching. So I know, since I'm not at the halfway point yet in the game, that I don't care what anyone says. Like, you cannot beat this game in 20 hours. Especially you have to go through the story, and you have to get encounters and enemies. Like, the only way to get anything around 20-25 hours beating the game is for you to turn off the encounters on the game. Like, to actually physically turn it off by pressing the R3. But I always say that's kind of cheating, because The original game was meant for you to always have the encounter on. There was no encounter on, encounter off. So that's an additional factor added towards the time duration of the game from beginning to end. So let's say the game is actually roughly 20 hours including the story. Every encounter you made on the world map from beginning of the game to the end of the game will probably bring you about 5 hours. If we're talking from duration of the beginning of the game to end of the game. Because you always run into encounters, so that was an additional 5 hours. So that's your 25 right there. And then there's the boss battles from beginning of the game to end of the game. If you don't know what you're doing, you could die more than once. A boss battle might range you anywhere from 5 minutes to 15 minutes. And maybe longer if you don't know what you're doing. So let's say you add another 5 hours to every boss from beginning again to end of the game. That would get you around like what, 30 hours in the game. 30, maybe even more, 35 hours. Because there's many bosses as well. So that's the way I see it. Like the story game of Final Fantasy, the story of Final Fantasy is 20 hours. Boss battle has to be factored in. The world map and your encounters have to be factored in. You can't take off the encounter on, encounter off as a factor of not existing, because that's just the way the people gave you in the repixelated version or the prior version in order for you to not always have encounters. But that has to be a factor added to the game, because that's how it was from the beginning. The hours that you always are encountering enemies. So you have to factor that in. You have to factor that in. People who don't factor it in, then let's say like you're taking a lot of time away from the game. If you don't factor in encounters, you take off all encounters. So I would say you would take off maybe a full 5 hours from the game if you take off every single encounter in every map. But that's kind of dumb, because you need to have encounters in order to get stronger and to level up. You cannot just depend on boss, so you'll have to force yourself to get into random encounters regardless, because at a certain point you're realizing you're dying a lot, so you have to keep fighting anyway. So even if you want to always have no encounters on, there's no way to get around it. Eventually you have to keep fighting so you could keep leveling up your espers as well, and your magic. And that only happens if you continuously fight over and over again, and you cannot get that through just boss encounters. So I cannot see this game, you can't beat this game in 20 hours. There's no fucking way, unless you take off encounters. The way I see it, this game is at a minimum, if you take out the equation of encounter on, encounter off, at minimum it'll probably be 35 hours. At minimum. If you're following the story straight, if you're not making detours, if you're not exploring the world, at minimum it would probably be 30 to 35 hours. I was thinking about maybe you could beat this in 20-25 hours, the entire game. But that would be impossible now to think about it, because if the story of the game is just 20 hours itself, beginning to end, then you have to consider fighting in the world so you can level up. Then you have to consider bosses. Then you have to consider like little searching for secret items and stuff throughout the world. And then you have to consider like not just leveling up your espers and your magic. You have to consider switching gears with regards to what type of gear you need to fight, what type of enemy, what type of equipment. Then you have to farm for money to do that stuff, but that comes with you leveling up anyway. But you still have to customize and make builds in response to the type of enemies you're going to fight, boss or just world enemies, and that also takes time as well. So there's no way you could beat this game in 20 hours. The story, you could beat the story in 20 hours, but bosses, the world map, you customizing your stuff, that would get you anywhere from 30 to 35 hours at minimum. At minimum. Now, if you add exploration into that factor as well, then exploration will get you around 60 hours, because then you have to explore everything that you miss, and you have to do other like little side quests if you want to do side quests. I'm not sure if this game has side quests, but if you don't want to do side quests, then you have to consider leveling up every magic. So it's not just leveling up your characters. You have to level up every ability. Like each of these espers, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Each of these espers, if you add it to a character, like say you add it to Locke or Strago, if I add every espers I got from the beginning of the game to the end of the game to Strago, he has to learn the max percentage of each of these espers. The star symbol represents that he has learned the ability from Ramuh. He has learned the ability from Catsit. He has learned the ability from Unicorn, so on and so forth. Once a star pops up next to that Esper attached to Strago, and once you do that, you see the star, you then switch to the next Esper, and then to the next Esper, and to the next Esper. And all that stuff, just for leveling up the Esper, takes time, because it's not like you yourself leveling up your magic and stuff. That comes with you having espers attached to you. But to each individual espers, you have to switch them. So you have to wait, get into fights, level up Ramuh, wait, get into fights, level up Catsit, wait, get into fights, level up Kirin, wait, get into fights, level up Siren, and so on and so forth. Right now I have it on Seraph. So once he has a star on Seraph, boom, then I switch off to Bismarck, and it goes like that. Then I switch to Unicorn once it stars. But that, all of that is attached to Strago himself, not to Locke, not to Terra. So far, Terra has level up 1, 2, 3, 4, and she still have other espers to go. That stuff takes time. So if you just want to play the story and you don't want to level up anything, or you don't want to find any secrets, or you don't want to get in sidetracked with regards to any additional conversations you might find in the world, and buying money and making bills, which bills work with which equipment works with best with which. I need more defense, I need more magic and stuff, which relic works the best, and then you picking and choosing the type of the enemies you're going to fight. All these things take time. It's not just for 1, 2, or 3 characters. It's for every character in the game. So you have to think of all that stuff. So there's no way this game can be 20 to 25 hours. I don't care what anyone says. You can only beat this game from 20 to 25 hours if you're only following the storyline straight, and if you take off encounter on, encounter off, you take that off, and you don't have any side, you do no exploration. So 3 things: encounter on, encounter off, just pay attention to the story, and no explorations. And also no additional leveling. Like if you could avoid a boss fight, or you could avoid an item, which will be helpful for you to have, you would ignore going to that place and acquiring that item. So there's 4 things actually, and that's all I can say about that with regards to the game. 4 things, and maybe you could get the game down to about 25, 30 hours. I still don't think it'll be 25. I think you might get it down to 30 hours, but maybe you can if you neglect those 4 things. But if you don't neglect those 4 things, there's no way you can beat this game. If you're doing exploration, if you're doing leveling, if you're doing builds to see what works, what doesn't work, if you're following the story and doing additional content with regards to the story, if you attach those 4 things rather than subtract those 4 things, this game is not 25 hours, 20 to 25 hours. There's no way. It'd be more like 50 to 60 hours So I would say this is a 60-hour game. And if you explore even more than that after you level up everything and acquire all items and you want to find additional secrets, it'll probably be like 80 hours. So I think this is a 80-hour game. That's all there is to it. I'm not even at the halfway point. I'm already, if I don't consider those 7 hours, I would say almost close to the halfway point. That's already 20 hours. So at minimum, if I don't consider those 7 hours, then, and I do the same thing. Let's say I do the same thing from the halfway point going towards the end. An additional 7 hours. Won't make a difference. That's 40 hours already. Added another 20, added to another 20. And then the last quarter of the game, let's say the last 25% of the game, is what? 5 hours. 5 or 10 hours. I would say the game is like anywhere from 45 to 50 hours if you're following everything and you're not doing extra you know what, it doesn't even matter. The way I see it, if you follow just the story, it's 25 hours. That's all there is to it. If you're not following just the story and you're doing exploration, you want to level up and everything, this game is anywhere from 60 to 80 hours. That's the way I see it. And it'd be probably more than that if you're spending a lot of time in the world trying to find things that doesn't exist in the game. Like you believe that there are additional secrets, but there are none. So I believe this game is not a 100-hour game or even a 90. I believe people who stay in this game for like 100 hours or 90 hours or even 85 hours are trying to do something that probably doesn't exist in the game. But if I could be wrong, before this game is completely over, it might rack me to about 85 hours or maybe 80 hours. And if I'm following my standard procedure, then I might stand corrected. This might be a game that goes to about 100 hours if you're doing every single thing. But I doubt it. I think this might be a game that goes to about a total of 60 hours, anywhere from 60 to 80 hours if you're exploring and do every single thing in the game. So it's anywhere from 60 to 80 hours depending on how fast you are, how quick you are on the uptake, or how much you're willing to accept and how much you're willing to learn and how much time you're willing to put. So I think this game is anywhere from 60 to 80 hours. But so that's it for this game. I'll do a save, and the next time I'll continue this game will be 5 days from today. So it's going to be a long time from today. I'll play some Warframe right now, and then I'll hop back on to my work that I was doing before. Maybe I'll play Warframe for about 2 hours, and then I get back to my work I was doing before. Yeah, but this is a very good game. This is a very good game. When I said I gave it a 95 to about anywhere from 9.5 to about a 10, or a 95 to about 100, that was not a lie. Bullshit. If you're thinking about it from the point of view of the game, you have items, all the different items, and it's not just you scrolling down from all the different items. You could actually sort said items. You go here, you could press the key items that you're looking for, and it will tell you what those key items are. Or you could go to sort, and in sort, even though this is an old game, you could do all this. Now this was in the old game back in the days. I'm not sure it was in the original Final Fantasy VI, but in the remade version Final Fantasy VI, the anthology, this was also here. Where you could do customizations, where you could just select weapons, where only weapons would show, or you could select items, where only items would show. Whatever you want to show up in your items list, it would show up there. And that's just the items. Then you go to abilities, and you have the Esper ability, and you select any Espers and you switch on Espers depending on what you want. And once they get a star on Esper, after getting so many battles, you proceed forward. And you give the game another point for that. But not just that. It's not just about that. It's about you can press R1 and L1 to switch from characters to characters, whereas in a very older game you have to close out the menu and then go to another character and do it. Whereas in this game, I believe in the anthology version, you could select weapon, equip weapon, and once that's done, you could go to the next character and do the same thing, the R1 and the L1. Now, I'm not 100% sure if this was something present in the anthology, but I believe the R1 and L1 with regards to going from side to side were present. But it doesn't really matter, because what did exist in the old games was optimization. You could optimize regardless, and then automatically set, and then you exit out and then go to the next character and do the same thing. And remove all was also part of the old games as well. And then you go to stats, and that's just those two things that are set good and it's played out very good. Then you set stats, and you find stats in every game, so that's not really important. But formation, put back and forth, you could go backwards and forwards. That was in the old games as well. And configuration with regards to battle mode, you could put weight, speed up battle. All this is good as well, and so you give game points for this as well. Then there's the save. You could save outside in the open world, and you can load while in the game, while you're playing the game, and say, well, I'm not having much luck in the game at this location, maybe you should go back one save. And the old games used to have save slots, so if you're saving and you're giving a lot of save slots, you're giving a total of 20, you could go back a good while, and that's very good as well. So there's many things within just the item selection menu, not even the game itself, not even the story, not even the characters, just from the menu screen right here. There's a lot that's going on. That's one. That's two. That's, I believe quick save didn't exist before, but that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So back in the days, 8 very good things were in the game. And of course, then there's the other stuff like the story, then the characters in the story, and then the world itself, the world design, and then the ship itself. You're flying the airship, and then you have boats. I believe there's a later point you in a sailboat or something like that, or traveling place to place. Rafts, little towns. You go into certain towns. Each town is designed differently and structured differently, and the placement of certain places. And then there's the places that you can buy stuff, and in certain towns you cannot buy certain items until you talk to certain NPCs and certain events happen. So everything is different. So music for certain towns is different. The design of the world in certain towns are different. The structure of what they put certain greenery is different. Like in a big city it looks different, but in a rural place it looks different. And even though everything's pixelated, they're designed individually differently. Then there's the map. You pull up the map. The old map was just this. In the anthology version, you could do this, so you know exactly what does what move, what does pause. The game has this tutorial to tell you how to do certain things as well as you're playing the game. And then you could return to the title screen as well, and all that stuff. Then there's items like tent, where you could sleep outside in the world, or you could use a sleeping bag just to heal one person. And then there's elixir that you can use in missions, and in items you could use in combat to assist you as well, such as reflect items or throw items. All these little nooks and crannies, things that that would be super helpful in combat. So this game is designed to be, even though the story is great, how things are designed combat wise for you to use to your advantage. Like if you're, let's say if you cannot use magic anymore, you would have to go to your item and then press a specific item like a weapon, and then you have to throw it at the enemy. If you acquired the ability to throw things, like if you were the ninja, you could throw stuff. Or if you have a certain type of magic sites that has an ability from the menu, and then you use it. If you can't use your powers, let's say you've been silenced. So all this stuff has been present in the game, and they're very helpful. And if you don't have the items to protect you from enemies, you could go into your item menus in order to help yourself out. So that's also something to consider as well. And then there's the design window, which is not that great. Like say this is a design window, a window for the items, and then a window for this. So those things aren't great, but at least they tell you. It's very simple and straightforward what they are. So, so there's no end. You also it tells you where you are, your current location. You're in the overworld. So, and there are also little mini stuff such as formations and close menu and different buttons in order to do certain things as well. And then even when you go onto the map, you could actually go up and down to find out where on the map you need to go to. And then on the map, it shows you exactly what's in that town or what you need to acquire from the town. Like this, it says chests. There's 13 chests in this town and 10 items in this town. So if you need to go back and collect things, this is the part that comes with the exploration part. Each location have certain places and certain things that you could get, special items, secret items, and it tells you what you've acquired from there and what you didn't acquire from there. Like this has nothing here, but this has 4 chests which I did not open and 2 items. So there's a lot of stuff to do in the game. Even though I'm at 20 hours in, I'm still missing a lot of stuff in the exploration section. So story-wise, this game could be anywhere from 20 to 25 hours, but if you're just following the story. But the moment you do exploration, that will rack you into anywhere with the 60-hour territory, 60 to 80-hour territory. I don't care what anyone says. If you're following the story, if you're doing builds with regards for your characters, if you're leveling up and you're doing exploration, that will get you anywhere from 60 to 80 hours in. Easy. Maybe even more if you want to find every single chest and every single item in the game. So that's it for this. Like I said, that's the reason why this is anywhere from a 9.5 to a 10 game. The story is solid, the characters are solid, the menus are solid. There's no bugs like in today's current games. You know, maybe there was a glitch or two, but there's no game-breaking bugs. So that's something that has to be factored in. The load time is fast. You know, even back then when you were using PlayStation 1, the load time was fast. So yeah, this is one of those top tier, top shelf games. The story is great. The only thing that's sad about this is that they don't have the animation from the anthology. Like if you exit out and go back to the main menu, um, and you go here, and you go extra, you have the bestiaries of everything that you've collected from certain areas. There's also bestiaries too. Another reason why the game might be actually more than 60 and 80 hours. Like if you're trying to collect every bestiary or every beast encounter. Or maybe it tells you just how many beasts are in the game. Maybe you don't have to collect them at all. Yeah, yeah. Actually, you have to. And that comes with exploration. Because if you follow just a standard story straightforward, you might miss certain beasts. So this is how I think this game might rack anywhere from 60 to 80 to 100 hours. And also there's the music player, and that wasn't in the game before. And back in the days, I believe this is part of the Pixel Remastered. You could play any type of music that you want. And the gallery. Let's say I pick gallery number 11. These are all the gallery pictures from the artist that did the original Final Fantasy 6. Now, I believe the reason why the um, Square Enix anthology or Square Soft um, intro animation for the anthology game isn't part of this, because that was specifically designed for the anthology game. That's why you cannot see it here. Only in the Final Fantasy Anthology did they do a 3D intro. For this one, there's no 3D intro. This is the original Final Fantasy 6 intro, the beginning, and that's it. The anthology game, they did an entire wash of how an intro video was, and it created a 3D animation that lasted for about a good 4 minutes. So I wish they had added that to this. But if you really want to see that 3D animation, which is very important for Final Fantasy fans, because if they are going to make a movie of Final Fantasy VI or make a remake of Final Fantasy VI, it has to look somewhat like that 3D model. Because you cannot do it through the pixel version here, because you can't tell how characters actually legit look unless you're talking about the gallery, how they look from the gallery. And you can't depend on the gallery for how you would 3D model a character, because this artist drew in a specific way that's not logical to today's standards of how specific characters look. Like Terror Brantford might not look this way. Like like you see how the eyes are very narrow and very split and very the pupils are spreaded. That realistically, that's not logical, but that's a type of specific type of characteristic design within the game. So they might not go with that. So if they make this into a 3D story, it might be something more related towards the anthology intro video, how those characters look in that video, rather than the artwork here. So, and that's another reason why the anthology's 3D isn't here, because that was specifically for the anthology. Otherwise, it would be here as well. It would have been Final Fantasy VI Pixel Remastered Anthology, which means I would have not only Final Fantasy VI, I'll have Final Fantasy V as well. But this is only Final Fantasy VI. So that's it for this video. I'm gonna pick this up 5 days from now, down the road. But I wanted to explain why I believe this is a 9.5 to a 10. Now, I could be wrong, and let's say you're not a Final Fantasy fan or RPG fan. It won't even matter if you're not a Final Fantasy fan or RPG fan. This game will still be in the 9's territory. Even if I drop it 5 points, it will still fall in the 9's territory. Anyone who has this game in the 8 territory probably don't like not anthology games, don't like RPG games. The only people that would probably have this game in the 8s are people who don't like RPG games. And you don't go to people for opinions on what is a good RPG game if they don't give a shit about RPG games. You only go to people who play RPG games to get the opinion on what is a good RPG game. What is high in value, 8, 7, 9, 6 or 5 or 3, what's the rating? Those are the people you go to say, well, this is a good RPG game, that's not a good RPG game. You don't go to the guy that don't like RPG games and drop it in low points. You go to people who like RPG games to give an accurate assessment, because the people who don't like RPG games aren't going to be patient enough to deal with talking. To that I say, nah, go that way, man. Go that way, go far away. Go play some more Black Ops. This is the world of Japanese JRPG. You belong in that world where you just run and gun. That's all. And there's nothing wrong with it. But you don't have no voice when it comes to things that you don't give a shit about. So that's the way I see it. Alright. That's it for this video.